Ted was born in 1923 and enlisted in the Royal Navy in 1943. He was then selected for commissioning and attended the Naval College at Dartmouth. Having successfully passed out, he was then selected for aircrew and particularly for pilot training. And that training led him to New Brunswick in Maine, where he joined his squadron. And Ted, will you please tell us the number of your squadron?
1843.
1843 squadron. And you were in New Brunswick for a number of months. And the squadron received, as I understand it, 24 aircraft. What were those aircraft?
Corsairs.
The Corsair. The squadron then moved from New Brunswick to Norfolk, Virginia, where it was then loaded onto an aircraft carrier, which was HMS Trouncer. Trouncer then brought you across to the United Kingdom. And there eventually you were all to embark on which aircraft carrier?
Arbiter.
HMS Arbiter.
Yeah.
And it was HMS Arbiter which, together with its escorts, took 1843 Squadron to the Far East. For much of the journey, your aircraft were providing the carrier group with air cover. So having arrived in Ceylon, you then disembarked all the aircraft. Rather strangely, I think, was it onto a race course?
Yeah, very interesting.
The race course at Colombo.
Yeah.
But what then did all the pilots do?
We hired horses.
You hired horses?
On the race course.
Right. So you made good use of the race course.
Yeah.
But after that, things got rather more serious, didn't they? And where were you all sent?
Oh, in a jungle training course.
The jungle training course for survival.
And a little bit rough in the jungle.
It was a rough time in the jungle, yes, I can imagine.
So I did.
And so after your time in Ceylon, you then set sail across the Pacific. You then took part in patrolling the Admiralty Islands.
Yeah.
But it's true to say that life as a pilot was very hazardous, wasn't it? Many of your pilots were killed.
Yes.
As I recall, Ted, on one particular occasion, you had been on a reconnaissance flight. You came back in onto HMS Arbiter to refuel before continuing your reconnaissance duties. You started the aircraft up again after the refuel, and what happened?
The aircraft jumped.
It jumped because there had been a great big explosion.
And left about a foot or so in the air.
The aircraft jumped a foot in the air, yes. But you managed to get out more or less unscathed.
I jumped quickly.
Except
singed what I was.
All your hair and your whiskers were singed.
Yeah.
It saved you going to the hairdresser, didn't it? But it just illustrates, I think, just how precarious life was, how dangerous life was as a Fleet Air Arm pilot. But eventually the end of the war came, as I said, and before Arbiter was able to go into frontline operational service. What you did was to join the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve as a pilot. And you flew weekends out of Sywell. But much to reflect on. And if I can just perhaps conclude by pointing out that the medals which Ted is wearing are the 1939-45 star, the Burma medal with the Pacific clasp, and the 1939-45 war medal. I should also add, perhaps before concluding this interview, that there is one other Burma Star veteran of whom I'm aware, who lives in the county, and rather strangely lives in this particular village, and that is Captain Robert Griggs, who at 98 and a half now sadly is blind. He was commissioned into the South Staffordshire Regiment, which formed part of the Chindits in the Burma jungle, fighting behind Japanese front lines in order to disrupt their supply lines. And sadly, Robert feels unable to take part in this interview. But it's important, I think, that he should be remembered.